Who are they? They are your children.
5 years after an assassination attempt separated him from his secret love and led him to believe he was sterile, Afro-Korean Busan kingpin Jae-Sun discovers his love. Amara is running an illegal art collective in the shadow of his city, raising the 2 children he never knew he had. His regret forces him to break a silent vow and confront the life of loneliness he built. But Amara, ready for a revenge, demands he proves his love not through protection, but by dismantling the very empire that killed their past. Hello there. You're welcome to AfroKWave-Tv, where stories are made real. Before we dive into this mind-blowing love and revenge story between a rich Korean boss and a beautiful African black woman, kindly hit the subscription button because we are bringing you similar stories in the next 24 hours. Do also forget to tell us where you are watching this video from. The rain hammered against the windshield of the black SUV as it crept through the narrow, brightly painted alleyways of Busan's Gamcheon Culture Village. Inside, Jae-Sun Han sat motionless. Though only in his mid-30s, his face, striking in its Afro-Korean features, was carved into an expression of cold authority, known across the city's underworld. Yet, tonight, that authority was brittle. In a modest, 2-story house, Amara carefully tucked her 5-year-old twins, Cairo and Hannah, into their shared bed. She was tired, but her eyes held a fierce light. Her fingers moved nervously over a viral photograph displayed on her laptop. Her face, her children's faces, exposed. She knew the clock on their fragile piece had just run out. A sudden, violent splintering sound shattered the silence as the front door gave way. 3 large, masked men rushed in, shouting in Korean. Amara screamed, adrenaline flooding her system. Snatching her painter's palette knife, she lunged, slashing the arm of the nearest intruder. 2 goons restrained her, dragging her toward the children's room, intent on their target. Before they reached the hall, the front door was annihilated. Jae-Sun stood framed in the wreckage, a silenced pistol smoking in his lowered hand. "Release her," he ordered, his voice low, pure menace in Korean. The goons hesitated, recognition dawning. Jae-Sun was not a man one defied. When they finally dropped Amara, he raised the pistol and fired 2 precise, lethal shots. The men dropped. The 3rd goon scrambled for the exit, but a final shot ended his escape. Amara stood amidst the rain and broken wood, the palette knife still gripped tight. Her eyes locked on Jae-Sun, not with fear, but with raw hatred. "You waited 5 years," she choked out in English, tears mixing with the rain on her face. "You waited until they were in the middle of a kidnapping. Minho saw the photo hours ago. I stopped them," he countered, holstering the gun and taking a step toward her. "No," she wept, shaking her head. "You brought the violence. You are the violence." The children's door creaked open. Cairo and Hannah stood in their pajamas, staring at the destruction. Jae-Sun froze. He looked at the bodies, then at the twins, perfect mirror images of his lineage. The cold mask he wore disintegrated, replaced by a devastating realization. Jae-Sun's penthouse was a monument to his power and his isolation. He stood by the glass wall, unable to face the woman who represented everything he had lost. The city lights glittered below, a glittering cage. Amara sat on the sofa, clutching a blanket. "Don't speak to me in that language," she commanded, interrupting his silence. "You only spoke Korean to me when your father was around." He winced, turning slowly. "I thought you were dead. The reports after the car bombing. They said I was gone," she finished, slamming her cup down. "They said your life was clean. They said the accident left you sterile. Did you even cry, Jae-Sun? I built this cage because I thought the only light I ever had was extinguished, he said, his voice raw. I grieved you, Amara. Every single day. I kept the vow to live out of the light, but it was empty because you were gone. Amara stood, rage giving her strength. I was bleeding out in a safe house in Jeju, hiding from your father's men. I survived because I refused to let his cruelty take everything. That was 5 years of silence. 5 years of secret love, burying the part of me that chose you. The children are mine, he whispered, a question that was no question. I see it, the arrogance in Cairo's eyes, the curve of Hannah's jaw. They are mine, she corrected. I protected them from the legacy you chose. You are the butcher. You have stained this city with blood. I did it to survive, to control the danger so it could never touch anyone else, he pleaded. It touched them tonight. Your father sent those men, she accused. He lied to you about the reports. He made you think you couldn't be a father. He stole everything. Regret doesn't protect them, Jae-Sun, she challenged, moving to the glass wall. If you want a place in their lives, you have to choose. Burn it down. Jae-Sun looked out at the city, the empire he controlled. You want me to destroy everything I built? I want you to destroy everything your father built on the ashes of our lives. Prove that your love is a weapon that can dismantle an empire, not just control it. He knew the cost. If he did this, they would be hunted by every rival and former ally. We're already hunted, Jae-Sun, Amara said, her voice softer now, pleading. The difference is, this time, you'll be standing next to me. He closed his eyes, swallowing the grief of 5 cold years. He opened them and nodded. Tell me what to do. Chairman Han's office was heavy with tradition and the scent of power. Jae-Sun stood before his father, calm but radiating dangerous tension. The girl's return bothers you, Chairman Han observed in Korean. She's a liability, Jae-Sun lied smoothly. I dealt with the men you sent. They won't speak. Good. But she must be eliminated. She knows too much about the accident. I need to know why you lied about the sterility, father, Jae-Sun demanded, his voice steely. You let me believe I couldn't be a father. Chairman Han leaned forward, triumphant. Unnecessary decision. You needed to focus on the empire. You were the perfect son. You were strong. I was empty, Jae-Sun corrected, his voice dangerously low. I was blind. The photograph proved I'm not sterile. Their existence proves your entire empire is based on a betrayal of your own blood. Those mongrels are a stain on our legacy, Chairman Han roared, rising from his seat. They will never be heirs to the Han Syndicate. Then there will be no Han Syndicate to inherit, Jae-Sun stated, pivoting and walking out. He left his stunned father alone in the suffocating silence of his office. Back in the penthouse, Amara was watching the sleeping children. He confirmed the lie, Jae-Sun said, entering the room. He fabricated the reports of my sterility to ensure I would never question him. He stole so much. Do you still love me? She asked, the question hanging heavy in the air. My love for you was the only clean thing in my world. It was the only thing I had left to mourn. I never stopped. He pulled her into a desperate hug, making up for the lost years. We start now, he announced, pulling away. Minho is downstairs. I'm going to leak everything. Financial records, rival connections, the truth about the police chief, everything that will splinter the organization. And your father? He needs to watch his empire burn before he falls. That is my punishment for him. This is the only way to keep the promise. "We don't hide here," Amara said, her focus sharp. "We moved to the mountain house, the one you used to show me. It's undefended, but no one will think we'd be so visible. It's a declaration." He grabbed his phone. "Minho, prepare the mountain house. We moved in 30 minutes. No security. Just essentials." 2 weeks later, the mountain house was a picture of rustic peace. The sun filtered through the trees. Jae-Sun, in simple clothes, read a Korean children's book to Cairo and Hannah on the porch. He was smiling, a genuine, easy smile Amara hadn't seen in years. "Appa, the tiger's fur is brown like yours," Hannah pointed out. "It is," Jae-Sun chuckled, "but I think this tiger is nicer than I used to be." Minho appeared, his face tight. "Boss, Chairman Han's men located the house. They'll be here in minutes. No time to move." Jae-Sun looked at Amara. She stepped forward, calm and resolute. "We knew the price." "Nothing, son," Jae-Sun said, standing up, the father instantly transforming back into the kingpin. "Just some friends of Appa's who don't know how to knock." He prepared to leave, but Amara grabbed a hunting knife from a hidden basket. "No, not alone," she insisted. "We're partners now. You taught me survival. We fight for this life together." Jae-Sun stared at the fierce, determined woman before him. She was the one he had mourned, now resurrected and ready for war. "You're right," he said, accepting her with a true smile. "This is the end of the regret, Amara. This is the start of the promise." He took her hand, kissing her knuckles. Then he turned and walked toward the tree line, pistol drawn. Amara followed, knife ready, glancing back at the window where Minho held their children. The sound of approaching cars and men shouting in Korean echoed through the quiet woods. The choice had been made, and the price was due. They would not run. They would fight for the life built on secret love, side by side. The quiet of the mountain woods shattered as the first black sedan ripped through the undergrowth. Jae-Sun moved with the cold efficiency of the killer he was, the gentleman butcher rising to the surface, but this time fueled by protection, not duty. He moved behind a cluster of granite boulders, drawing the first line of fire. 4 vehicles, 12 men, he murmured, his eyes sweeping the perimeter. Amara was already positioned 50 meters away, blending into the shadows of the dense pine trees, the hunting knife reflecting the minimal light. She didn't have his training, but she had the desperation of a mother. The first group of Han's men, wearing the syndicate's black uniforms, fanned out, guns raised. "Listen to me, Amara," Jae-Sun shouted, keeping his voice low enough to avoid detection by the enemy, but loud enough for her to hear. "They'll aim for the children. Draw them to the south ravine." Amara didn't reply, but Jae-Sun saw a flash of movement. A syndicate man, confident and careless, moved past her hiding spot. She sprang, a dark blur of movement. The knife was swift and silent. He dropped without a cry. Amara, breathing heavily, retrieved the knife, wiping the blade on the dead man's uniform before melting back into the shadows. Jae-Sun felt a strange surge of pride mixed with terror. She wasn't the fragile art student anymore. She was a weapon forged by his father's cruelty. He opened fire, precision shots hitting the tires of the 2 lead cars. The ambush wasn't meant to be subtle, it was meant to be quick. Jae-Sun took down 2 more men, but the remaining syndicate forces were veterans. They returned fire, pinning him down, the rounds whistling over his head, chewing into the rock face. "Minho, now!" Jae-Sun yelled into the wind. A sudden, fierce explosion of sound erupted from the house. Minho, having locked the children safely away, launched a timed explosive hidden near the porch. It was just a diversion, but it startled the attackers, momentarily breaking their formation. That was all Amara needed. She sprinted toward the ravine, drawing the focus of the three closest men. They pursued her, abandoning the attack on Jae-Sun. He watched her go, a deliberate lure, knowing the extreme risk she was taking. Jae-Sun burst from cover, eliminating the two men covering the ridge. He saw Amara reach the ravine's edge. She didn't hesitate. She threw herself over the embankment, disappearing into the dense fog that clung to the lower slopes. The three men followed, convinced they had their target cornered. Jae-Sun didn't wait. He knew she had led them into a deep, muddy trap he had taught her about years ago during their brief, secret moments of happiness. He focused on the remaining attackers, quickly ending the threat. He had to finish this and find her. Jae-Sun found Amara 10 minutes later, emerging from the ravine, covered in mud but unharmed. She had 2 additional knives, retrieved from the men she had dispatched in the fog. "They won't be sending anyone else here for a while," she said, her voice strained but steady. "You're incredible," Jae-Sun breathed, pulling her into a quick, fierce hug. "But we have to move. The ambush was too easy. My father is not a fool." "He underestimated me," Amara replied, glancing at the knives. "And he underestimated us. This fight has to end where it began, with the original lie." "The penthouse? The estate?" Amara shook her head. "The ancestral site. The old temple in the mountains where you were initiated into the syndicate. It's where your legacy was forged. It's where you break the chain." Jae-Sun looked sickened. The ancestral temple was the sacred heart of the Han Syndicate, the only place his father truly cared about. Attacking it was not just a violation, it was an act of patricide against the family's soul. "If I do that, it's open war with every allied family," he warned. "They'll be too busy fighting over the pieces of the empire you already dismantled," Amara said, her eyes burning with clarity. "This isn't about killing your father, Jae-Sun. This is about delivering a fatal wound to the idea of the Han Syndicate. It's the only way to earn our freedom. The only way to prove your love is stronger than his power." Jae-Sun realized she was right. They had already passed the point of no return. His love for her, once a secret, now demanded a public, cataclysmic act of destruction. "Min-ho," Jae-Sun spoke into his discreet earpiece. "Take the children to the rendezvous point, the ferry docks. I want them off the peninsula tonight. Do not wait for me." "Boss, I can't leave you," Min-ho protested, his voice tight. "You have new orders, Min-ho. Protect my children. That is the only loyalty left." He disconnected, then looked at Amara. "We're going to the temple." The ancestral temple was a magnificent stone complex hidden high in the Korean mountains, built centuries ago by the first Han patriarch. It was where Jae-Sun had received the ceremonial scar that marked him as the heir. Jae-Sun and Amara arrived as dawn broke, coating the ancient stone in cold, pale light. Chairman Han was waiting, standing before the main altar, surrounded by portraits of long-dead Han predecessors. He was alone, having dismissed his remaining guards, confident in the psychological power of the location. "You dare violate this ground, Jae-Sun," Chairman Han hissed, his voice echoing in the hall. "You disgrace the bloodline for a foreign woman and her mixed-race children." "You made the bloodline worthless," Jae-Sun retorted, standing tall, his hand resting near his sidearm. Amara stood beside him, her presence an insult to everything the altar represented. "I protected you from weakness," Chairman Han raged. "Love is a liability. It destroyed your uncle, it destroyed your grandfather, and it will destroy you." "You protected yourself from losing control," Jae-Sun corrected, feeling the full weight of 5 years of regret lifted from his shoulders. You lied about Amara's death, about my sterility. You stole my chance to be a father, to make me your perfect weapon. You confused control with strength, father. Chairman Han sneered. Strength is power, Jae-Sun. Power is survival. You think tearing down a few properties and giving secrets to the triads matters? I will rebuild. And I will hunt you and the children until your foreign whore begs for their lives. The casual, cruel reference to Amara shattered the last remnant of filial respect in Jae-Sun. You're right, Jae-Sun said, raising his voice so it resonated through the hallowed hall. Wealth doesn't matter, but loyalty does. He pulled out his phone, holding it aloft. I didn't just leak the financials, father. I sent every name, every debt, every secret you used to bind every family and politician in this city. I sent them proof of how easily you betrayed them and me, and I named the exact time and place where you would be waiting for me. Chairman Han's eyes widened in stunned horror. He understood immediately. Jae-Sun hadn't just exposed the syndicate. He had used the last shred of his power to engineer a trap for his father, using the ancestral site as bait. I showed them that your son, the gentleman butcher, chose love over legacy. Jae-Sun continued, his voice heavy with finality. And that made me more dangerous than you ever were. A sudden wave of approaching vehicles and shouting men echoed from the mountain road. They weren't police. They were rival syndicate heads, politicians, and the triads, all coming to settle scores with the man who had betrayed them all. Chairman Han lunged, a hidden knife appearing in his hand. But Jae-Sun was faster. He disarmed his father, pinning him against the altar stone, looking down at the man who had traded his son's happiness for an empire. You destroyed the only thing that mattered to me, Jae-Sun whispered, his face inches from his father's. The promise of a clean life. I am not killing you, father. I am going to let you live to watch your empire burn, and to know that the son you molded chose Amara and his children over the Han name. Jae-Sun released him. Chairman Han collapsed, defeated, as the sounds of the approaching angry mob grew deafening. Go, Jae-Sun commanded Amara, pulling her toward a discreet side exit. We leave him to his legacy. 6 months later, a small art gallery opened near the sea in a quiet, nondescript town far from Busan. The space was bright, filled with Amara's bold, colorful paintings, a fusion of African patterns and Korean landscapes. The sign above the door read simply, The Promise. Jae-Sun was no longer the butcher. He wore simple clothes and managed the gallery's accounts, ensuring their finances were untraceable and secure. He was still vigilant, there passed a shadow that would never fully dissipate, but he was present. He stood near the back, watching Amara teach Cairo and Hannah in a children's corner, their tiny hands covered in paint. Appa, the tiger needs stripes, Cairo shouted in perfect Korean. I agree, Jae-Sun said, kneeling down. But you'll have to teach me how to paint them. Amara looked up, meeting his eyes over the children's heads. There was no hatred now, only exhaustion, deep affection, and a wary, hard-earned trust. The Busan News is calling him the Broken Patriarch, Amara said quietly, walking over to him. Your father is gone. No one knows where. The Han Syndicate is history. He got what he earned, Jae-Sun replied. A life without power. A life alone. And we got what we earned, Amara countered, taking his hand. A life together. But you know the danger is still real. Someone will always come looking for the last Han, and for the man who destroyed him. I know, Jae-Sun admitted, squeezing her hand. The fear never goes away, but I promise you, I will spend every day making sure you and our children feel safe. It wasn't the promise of a peaceful life. It was the promise of a committed fight. He saw the fear in her eyes, but also the love. It was a love that had survived 5 years of lies, betrayal, and war. It was the most dangerous, beautiful thing he had ever known. Amara leaned in, resting her head against his shoulder. "That's all I ever asked for." The children ran up, demanding a trip to the sea. Jae-Sun looked at his wife and his children, then out at the turbulent water. He knew the fight would continue in the shadows, but here, in the light of the gallery, he was no longer a man fueled by regret. He was a man defined by love. And that was a strength Chairman Han would never understand. The story was over, but their life was just beginning. Jae-Sun looked at his wife and his children, then out at the turbulent water. He knew the fight would continue in the shadows, but here, in the light of the gallery, he was no longer a man fueled by regret. He was a man defined by love. And that was a strength Chairman Han would never understand. The peaceful moment evaporated when a new notification flashed across Jae-Sun's encrypted tablet, a live feed from a discreet camera he'd installed near the city limits. The image showed a figure stepping off a private jet. Chairman Han's oldest, most vicious rival, Madame Hyan, flanked by a dozen security personnel. "They're not looking for the syndicate," Jae-Sun murmured, his face hardening into the butcher once more. "They're looking for the man who destroyed it." Amara followed his gaze. "We run?" "No more running," Jae-Sun said, the vow firm. He looked at the chaos of his life, the empire he destroyed, the enemies he created, and finally, the family he saved. "I burned down my world for you. Now I use the ashes to build a fortress." He grabbed a hidden satellite phone, dialing a number only Min-Ho knew. "It's time to cash in the last markers. I need every favor owed, every weapon available. We bring the war to them, before they bring it to the gallery." Jae-Sun looked at Amara, his love an undeniable, dangerous promise. "Are you with me?" "Forever," she breathed, grasping the hunting knife, ready for the next battle. As the sun set over the quiet town, Jae-Sun stepped out the back door, leaving the light and laughter behind. The fight was far from over. Will the promise hold when the entire underworld comes calling? Find out in Season 2. Like this video, comment your theories, and subscribe so you don't miss the war for the Han bloodlines.